Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest CTO Craft Bytes. Today, we're very excited to have a talk from Leonardo Andreucci. If this is your first time at CTO Craft Bytes, let me tell you a bit more about the group. CTO Craft is a mentoring and coaching community for technology leaders around the world, focusing on supporting technologists in their leadership growth. Community members are over 8,000, and CTO Craft provides them with one-to-one coaching, mentoring groups, a curated Slack community, and events like this one. If you're not a member of the CTO Craft community and are interested in becoming one, or if you'd like to get updates on these events, we're posting some links in the chat to help you do just that. A huge thanks to CTO Craft sponsor partners for helping to make these Bytes events possible. Partners include AWS, Google Cloud, O'Reilly, and Pentalog, amongst others. CTO Craft membership gives you access to some unique benefits from some of these partners. So click the link in the chat to find out more. Hello, I'm Zoe Cunningham. I'm a director at Software Technology, having worked there for over 20 years, starting as a software developer back in 2000. Now I engage with the tech community through events like this one, as well as hosting the software podcast Tech Talks, which is available on all good podcast platforms. Joining me today is Leonardo Andreucci, who has 20 years of startup experience and is the former CTO of a Series F fintech unicorn in Brazil. Hello, Leo. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Hello, Zoe. Glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Leo. I'm based in São Paulo, Brazil. And well, I've been working in startups since 2004. The first company that I worked for, it was a location-based services, similar to Google Places, Google Maps, Yelp, and TripAdvisor, and Waze like. All of this before they were a thing. And for the last 10 years, I've been working in Creditas, which is a fintech in Brazil. What Creditas does is collateral loans, so home equity, auto equity, and payroll loans. And it's been a great ride, right? So we've started from there since the beginning, and the company has grown a lot. So I'm going to be talking about one-on-ones. Is one of my passions, one of the things that I like to think that I do well. And I've scaled them in Creditas. Like I was the first person doing one-on-ones there, and now over 3,000 people do them on a very constant basis. It's part of the culture of the company. So very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to hear this talk because I too am a big fan of one-on-one. So yeah, I can't wait to hear more. If you have any questions for Leo, please do post them in the Ask a Question box. And what we'll do is we'll answer all the questions at the end. So if you put your question up when you think of it, don't worry, we will see it and we'll come to it at the end. I'll try to also keep an eye on any questions that go in the chat, but if you do remember, please put your question and ask a question. That makes it a little bit easier for us. Over to you, Leo.
Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me if I talk? Okay, cool, great. So I think we've just lost Leo. So I'm hoping when we get Leo back, he'll be able to start over again and it will all work. We're just waiting for him to reconnect. Leo, are you able to reconnect and come? It says it's just sent you a link to come back on screen. All right, off we go.
Sorry about that.
Yes. Oh, amazing.
Where have you lost me?
Right at the start. I'm so sorry.
Well, have you heard me about results and retention? No, not?
I think for me, it was right as you started sharing your screen. So if you go right from the start, I think that will be safest.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, here you go, don't worry. Have you heard about the references? No. Okay, I'll start from here. So these are my biggest references, right? Manager Tools is they've had a weekly podcast for over 15 years, and they say that if you have a management problem, there's probably a podcast for that. I highly recommend it. There's Joanna Rotman with Behind Closed Doors. There's Andy Grove with High Output Management. He was a great CEO from Intel and a management guru. It's a highly recommended book. We have Ben Horowitz, we have Jürgen Appelo, and companies that have explicitly shared they're doing it, Google, Atlassian, and Creditas. So I'm going to start with what are the responsibilities of a manager? And when I mean a manager, it could be a director or anybody that is responsible for a team. So the first one is, everybody can state this, that they're responsible to generate results through this team, right? This is pretty obvious and everyone would be able to state that. But the second one that might not be so obvious to people is retention. So yes, as a people leader, you're responsible for retaining your team. So I always tell my teams, and people that join my teams, that I expect them to have the best professional experience of their careers, and it's great to see that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when they're leaving the company and they say, "Okay, Leo, mission achieved. It was the best professional experience of my career so far." But if you only want to look at the cold facts, losing people costs the company money. So we all know that recruiting in technology is hard. So if somebody on your team leaves, you start a recruiting process, and you know that it's going to take 1 or 2 or 3 months, and then this person needs to leave the previous company, and then they need to start, and then they need to learn everything about your company, the culture, the business, the technology stack, how to work with teammates, and things like that. And the second thing is, people live with history, right? And no matter how good your information management system, it's not perfect, and people will always live with information that's not documented anywhere. And the third thing is, people can go to your competitor and take information from your company that you wouldn't want them to know, right? So maybe expansion plans, or maybe your strategy, or whatever. So losing people costs money. Okay, everybody going well now, right? I can see Luciano commenting here. Hi, Luciano. Great you're here. So moving on. When we talk about retention, the first thing is we need to talk about relationships, right? I'm sure you've all heard the sentence that people don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses, right? So the relationship you have with your boss is one of the greatest indicator whether you're staying in the company or not. And when I think about a retention strategy, I think it's pretty simple to explain but pretty difficult to do is trying to match what the company needs with what the person wants to do, right? So to do that, you need to know your people, and you need to know what motivates your people, right? And I'm talking about intrinsic motivation. I'm not talking about salary, bonuses, cash, or whatever. But I'm talking about why do people really wake up in the morning and come to work with you? So when you understand that and you try to match it, this is how you start building relationships and working on your retention. And one thing that I like to talk here about these 3 powers is a very interesting concept that I've learned. So first type of concept is your role power, all right? So you only get more power of this, is your ranking, right? It's your position. You only get more of this when you're promoted, which happens, I don't know, once every few years. The second type of power is expertise power. So you're a legal expert, or you're a financial expert, or you're a technology expert, and once you get to a certain position, you already have your expertise power, and I don't know, learning 12 other programming languages or technologies or whatever, this will not radically change the amount of power you have in your company. But the third type of power is relationship power, and I'm sure you can think of somebody in your companies that doesn't have a high position, it's not a director or something, doesn't have exceptional expertise power, but this person always gets things done. And when this person goes to the marketing department, they get what they need. When they go to HR, they get what they need. And when they go to finance, they know somebody there that helps them, and they get what they need. And these people are very effective because they can leverage the power of relationships. And unlike the other 2 powers, this is one that you can start leveraging tomorrow, right? Just start paying attention on relationships you have with people in your company. And this is very, very trivial to do, right? You can start doing this right now. And to illustrate this, pardon for the stereotype, but I'm going to use the stereotype of a meeting of technology people with the marketing team. Let's say we're starting off a new initiative, and there's people from technology, from marketing, from sales, and whatever. And then 5 people from technology team have been invited to this meeting. And what I've seen happen, and I can replay this scene in my head very clearly right now, even though it happened like more than 10 years ago. Like, tech people would go to the back of the room. Sometimes they would say hello, sometimes not. They would, you could read them in their face that they didn't want to be there in that meeting. Like, they would be happier coding or doing tech stuff. And then you have I don't know, the least senior person of this tech team is a different person. They go there and they say hello to everybody, they shake hands, they say, hey, I'm very excited to be here participating in this initiative. Hey Mike, great to see you. I understand you've worked in Google, and great to work with you. And hey everybody, hey, this other person. I see you've lived in Spain for an exchange program. I've lived there too. Amazing. So this meeting goes on, and you're the only person in tech that is collaborating and talking and participating actively. And when this meeting is over and this initiative goes off, who do you think the marketing, the sales, and everybody wants to lead this initiative? It's the only person that was collaborating, that was speaking, right? And it doesn't matter if this person is not the most senior person in the tech team. This is the person everybody wants to work with. So, going on with relationships, I think everybody agrees that building trust is crucial to teamwork and to have a good work environment. And I do believe that good managers nurture relationship through communication, right? It's the only way to get close to anybody is communicating. And we can look at this via a quantity side. So if I got your email and your WhatsApp and started to read through all the messages, I can fairly, with a fair amount of certainty, say who your closest people are, right? Your closest friends, because you're probably communicating with them much more often than you're communicating with people you're not so close with. So quantity plays a factor here, and the other thing is quality, right? You have to communicate with people with subjects and things that matter to them, that are relevant to them. I'm sure you've all been to a dinner party and somebody sat on your side and talked all night long with you about subjects that didn't interest you at all. So there was quantity, but there was not quality, and you didn't go home thinking, oh, I have a good relationship with this person. You went home saying, oh, what a boring person that sat next to me. And I do believe that we need to invest in the relationship, right? It's an ongoing effort to invest in relationships, and this is how we build trust. Just to be sure, you're with me. If somebody can just say hello in the chat. Okay, thank you. And then a quick survey. I used to do this on physical events, but if you can bear with me. So I understand lots of people here has kids, and I'm sure that everyone agrees that your kids are the most important thing in your life, right? I also assume that all of you agree that it's important to have good relationships with people you lead. So the trick question is, how many of you knows the names of the kids of your direct reports, right? So this is an important thing to think. Do I really have a close relationship with the people in my team? Because if I don't know the names of the most important people in their lives, I probably don't, right? I'm gonna speak a little bit about role power. One thing that I learned is to never ask a question to a direct report whose answer you don't intend to honor. So I could say, hey Mike, can you hand me this report by tomorrow at noon? I say, no, sorry man, I'm swamped and I can't do that. And they say, no Mike, you didn't understand me. Can you hand me this report by tomorrow by noon? I say, yeah, of course, sure, I'll do that. And by that time, you're never gonna get a straight answer from Mike again. He'll always answer what you want to hear, and you're really damaging the relationship here. And another thing is, I don't know if this happens to you, but it happened to me in the past, and people would come to me with questions, like sometimes silly questions and sometimes questions to subjects that I was sure they knew the answer, right? I sure, why is this person questioning me, asking me this, right? It's a silly question. I don't understand why is this happening. But the thing is, your team wants to have time with you, and if they're feeling that you're far away and they don't have time or contact with you, they will start coming to you with things that don't make sense to you. So of course they want time to you. You decide their future. You decide who's having a promotion, who is getting laid off, and who's joining a very cool initiative, or who's switching teams, and who's participating in something nice in the company. So it's really understandable that they want time to be with you, to spend time with you. And I'm gonna share 3 stories here, very quick stories where I messed up for lack of relationship and lack of communication, right, and alignment. So one of them I received, it was a performance review that one of my directs wrote on my review, right? He wrote about my performance and said, okay, Leo is my leader, but we rarely talk. I said, what? How come we rarely talk, man? We talk all the time. But remember, we talked all the time in my perspective, but not on quality issues, that not on things that were important for him and relevant to him. The second story, we had a person from a different town. It was a faraway town, and he was an intern. And then he was doing an amazing job, and I wanted to extend him an offer to become a junior software engineer and to progress with the company. And so I've arranged everything with HR, and then we sat, myself, HR, and this person, and said, hey man, congratulations, you're getting an offer to stay with the company, to become a junior software engineer. I said, oh, okay, thank you, but who says I want to keep working here? I want to go back to my city. And then it was a really bad thing to discover right when we were offering him a position. And the third one, I was going to give a raise to a person, and so I called HR, we arranged everything, we sat with this person and to tell her she was getting a raise. And by the time we were sitting with her, she said, hey, HR is here, what's happening? Am I getting fired? And look at the misalignment, right? She was doing a very, very good work. She was receiving a raise, and she was afraid of getting fired. And last thing about here is like how do you differentiate average managers from excellent managers? So if you ask an average manager, hey, how's your team? They'll say, oh, our team is great, we deliver the initiatives, we gel together, we have a good work atmosphere, I think we're productive, and so they'll talk about the team. If you ask an excellent manager, how's your team? They'll say, okay, my team is amazing. I have this person that whenever we have performance issues, this is the person that we go to. He can solve any problem, and it's amazing. There's this other person on my team that she's very, very, she can get edge cases right before anybody else, and she prevents us running into lots of trouble. And there's this other person that she's a great communicator, and she does tech talks all around the country, and she's amazing recruiting people and setting our culture to the world. So excellent managers will talk about individuals, not as the team as a group, and this is a big difference for me. And you can say, okay, not sure, okay, you're selling me these one-on-one things, but I understand it's going to take time, and I'm not sure I buy the value. Okay. So yes, it's going to be an investment of time. I can say something about myself that I hate wasting time. I hate staying in lines. I hate traffic. I'm that person that presses the elevator button 5 times to see if it comes down quicker. I hate people that start talking and never get to the point. I hate long emails, and it's been an investment of time that I've been doing for the last 10 years or more, and I cannot imagine managing a team without this. So you won't get interruptions, you won't get those awkward moments. You will compress these moments into allocated spaces of time. And even for myself, I've stopped interrupting people a lot, right? It happened in the past that you have a software engineer with their headphones on, really concentrated, and you tap them in the back and ask a question. Okay, if you don't need an answer right now, I know I have a one-on-one tomorrow, I can ask him tomorrow about this, right? I really believe that we can get a more productive team doing one-on-ones. And I've seen people, the first time they hear about it, they're really skeptical. They said, okay, I don't think this will work, but please have faith and give it a try. And I've heard lots of people saying, okay, but my team or my company is different, that we only work with very senior people, we only work with very junior people, we work in shifts, we work remotely, we work physically. I've yet to see a good excuse for not doing that, right? And I take here 2 quotes. One from Andy Grove is that 90 minutes of your time can enhance the quality of your subordinates' work for 2 weeks or 80 plus hours. And Manager Tool says is the single most effective management tool they teach. If they were to teach only one thing throughout their lives, it would be one-on-ones, because they can really see the impact, and it's amazing. And they see that you don't do anything else. If you just do one-on-ones, you're going to be better than 80% of the people managers in your company. And that was the argument that convinced me to start. Okay, everybody here? I'm still on. Okay, here we go. Now we'll get into how to have them, right? So first of all, what is a one-on-one meeting? It's a weekly 30-minute meeting between a leader and a direct report. If you need a script to follow, like you don't need to follow this strictly, but if you don't know how to start, it's 10 minutes for them, 10 minutes for you, and 10 minutes to talk about the future. So one thing is that people say, we never have time to talk about the future. Here you have a place where you can do that. And the other thing is, okay, you probably won't talk about the future every week, but okay, you can take 15 minutes, I can take 15 minutes. This is a meeting that you have with every direct report. We focus on the direct report with the goal to encourage effective relationships, right? So this is, and people always say to me, okay, but if I have 10 direct reports, does this mean I will have 10 one-on-ones, each one-on-one with each person? Yes, that's exactly it. Oh, but if I have 20 direct reports, well, having 20 direct reports is not a good idea, and this is just one more point in favor of not having this, right? So keep in mind that it's to encourage effective relationships, right? You work with these people, you depend on these people on your team to get the work done, to achieve your results. So this is this is how you start building a relationship and building trust. So when to have them? The first thing is, the most important thing is scheduled in your calendar. People know that if it's on your calendar, it's important to you. And if it's not on your calendar, I'll do them when I have the time, right? So most of all, it's important to have them in your calendar. And you could say, okay, I know my people. When I need to talk to them, I just go there and ask them about whatever I want to talk to. And this might be true for, I don't know, half of the population, but you probably know people that are very meticulous. They like to think about problems. They like to think about what they're gonna say. And if you go to this person and say, hey, Mike, really quick, come here. Won't you give me an opinion about this subject? There are some people that will be very uncomfortable trying to give you an answer on this situation, right? They want to think about it. They want to. I would say that they don't give an opinion. They emit a report, right? So talking whenever you want, it's not effective to half of the population. Okay, what if I don't schedule? And this is how I started, right? I said, okay, this seems nice, but I'm usually very organized around to-do lists. And I say, okay, I'm gonna put here one-on-one with this person, one-on-one with this person, one-on-one with this person, and then every time I talk, I have one-on-one with one person, I'll put them on the back of the list. And you can imagine what happened. 2 months went by and I never talked to anybody. So having them on your calendar gives you the discipline to make them through. So you may reschedule, but never cancel. If you cancel, what the message you're sending to your direct reports is, okay, you're important to me unless something more important shows up, okay? And I can say that in 10 years, I probably canceled once or twice because, I don't know, something absolutely urgent came down and there was no other way around. But it's also a thing that why you shouldn't have them on Friday afternoons, because if something come up, you don't have time to reschedule them. So about the periodicity, the frequency where you have them, you could say, okay, nice idea, but I'll hold them monthly. And you cannot talk to somebody monthly and expect to build a relationship with them, right? What will happen is people will, I don't know, create PowerPoint slides to try to convince them that they're useful. It won't be a relationship building exercise, right? And come to think about it, your success depends on your team, and you're really only gonna spend 6 hours a year building relationship and building trust with your team. It doesn't really make sense. So you could think bi-weekly. It could be done, but we're naturally inclined to think in weeks, right? So you can tell me what you're gonna do next week, but you probably don't know what you're gonna do 9 days from now. And you can say what you did last week, but you probably don't know what you did two weeks ago. So you'll be missing a lot of information. So weekly is the way to go, and it's the way that I recommend. And you could say, oh, but I don't have time to do this. All right, maybe you don't have time this week or next week. So this was my calendar, and I given in a certain week back then. And okay, if you've never done them, you don't need to start next week. So your next week calendar could be like this, but I bet that your next month calendar is probably like this. So okay, you can see here 1:30 and 4 p.m. And 2 p.m. were the times that I held one-on-ones with my team. So if you don't have the time next week, schedule them for a month from now. The topics about what we usually talk about in these meetings. So the first thing is, the focus of this meeting is on the direct report. It's not on you, because you have raw power to talk to your people about what you want whenever you want, right? You can interrupt them, you can go to them and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this, and you get their time whenever you want. So they don't get they don't get your time whenever they want. So first thing is whatever they want to talk about. If they want to talk about puppies and rainbows, reality shows, sports and travel, okay, you need to talk to them about it, because remember, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's not my experience, right? It's not common for people to want to talk about this, but I just put here as an extreme example that if somebody wants to talk about it, go ahead and talk about it. And I do remember one time that I was feeling very disconnected to one of my direct reports, and I say, hey, let's have our one-on-one and let's make an agreement. Let's not talk about work in this one-on-one, in this particular one-on-one. And we talked about traveling and things, and it really got us closer for a longer period of time. So one thing is, first question should always be the same, because if you say, hey, let's have our one-on-one, okay, great, but really quick, just tell me how the deploy of today is going, and then you just hijack the topic of that meeting to go about what you want, right? So it should be an open question like, hey, what's up? Hey, what can you tell me? Hey, your agenda, and then listen. My experiences. Well, most of the time we're talking about day-to-day work, right? It's not about puppies and rainbows. It really helped me to anticipate issues. So if somebody tells me, hey, I'm thinking about this, and then I go to talk to another person, they tell me something different, and the third person tells me something different, and I say, okay, there's a huge misalignment here, and I need to fix this. If you have a culture where you want people to improve the company, which I believe most people do, this is a great place to be discussing, right? What do people think should improve in your company, in your team, in your dynamic? So ask people about it. It's a great place to discuss career trajectory and growth. The company grows, so usually people have doubts about the company, right? Is our company going well? Is it not going well? The interest rate is going up. What does this mean for us? How many customers we have? Whatever. People usually have a lot of company questions that they don't know where to ask. And it's even okay if you don't have all the answers, right? So you write them down, you go figure it out, and then you bring them back on your next meeting. One thing that's very common in Brazil is people want to live abroad, right? People want to move to Europe, want to move to the US. It's something that I've talked about a lot during our one-on-ones. It's important, again, it's important to know what people want to do in their lives, right? So if you can talk about it, if you have a good relationship, if you have trust, it shouldn't be a difficult matter to address. And I say, okay, I can even help you move there when the time comes. I love you. I expect you to work here for a long time, but when the time comes, I'll help you, right? One thing that is very interesting is when you have an awkward silence. And this happened to me a lot of times, and I have to make a big effort to not be the person to break the silence. So one thing that I can remember is one person said, I said, okay, your agenda, go on, what's up? And the person said, I have no topic today. And I just kept there looking at them, and they were looking at me. And for, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, imagine yourself with somebody 10 or 15 seconds in that awkward silence. And I said, okay, tell me something. And it happened again, and it happened again. And really, in the 7th time, this person said, well, I didn't know really how to say this, but some friends of mine are starting a company, and I'm thinking about joining them. Okay, great, let's talk about it. But really, did you have to wait like 7 times on this awkward silence to talk to me about it? And yes, sometimes people need to do this. And if people are in their head thinking, should I talk about this or should I not talk about this? If you break the silence and if you change the subject, you're giving them an easy way out to not talk about it. And it's interesting also that you will learn a lot about people, about facts, about things they're studying and things about them. And this, I don't know if this is legal in some parts of the world, but I usually try to understand about people's family or who are people important to them, right? So I can really remember one time that I talked to a person that we had an average relationship, and I don't remember why, but this person started telling me about their personal lives, about their family history, And suddenly, a lot of behaviors that this person had at work started making a lot of sense to me. So it was like Matrix. I started seeing things pretty differently, and our relationships improved a lot after this talk. And of course, there are people suffering through end of relationships, sickness, and passing of loved ones. If you wanna think about what topics should you discuss, you can talk, like this person can talk about themselves. They can talk about the relationship with you and the other person. You can talk about the environment, the internal environment. Could be your team, could be your company. And you could talk about the environment going outwards, right? So your team interacting with other teams, or the company interacting with the ecosystem or the economy or whatever, right? Examples of questions you can ask. Is your job what you expected when you've decided to work here? So this is great to align expectations, and I've had people answer, yes, this is exactly what I've expected. People would say, no, I was hired to do, I expected one thing, but it's happening another, and it's been great, no problem. And the best answer was, oh, it's my first job. I had no expectations at all, but I'm loving it. This is the funniest one. If you were the CEO, what's the first thing you would change in your company? So of course, people have ideas, and people are on the day-to-day problems. So lots of time they see problems that you don't see, or the CEO doesn't see. So it's great to ask people about this. What story do you want to tell when you leave the company? So they want to say, okay, I've worked here for a few months, I've paid the bills by the end of the month, and when the next 5% increase came from a competing offer, I decided to leave. Or do you want to build something? Do you want to build an area? Do you want to build a new product? Or do you want to take us to a whole new level? What do you want to tell when you leave the company? Always ask for feedback, right? Your direct reports, they know your weaknesses. They know the things you need to improve. So ask them about it, and maybe you can improve them. Who do you admire in the company? This is very great. Like sometimes if you're talking about motivation, if somebody can work with another person that they really admire, this feels better for them than a raise, right? Than cash. I've had people that maybe you can put people in cross company initiatives in other types of projects that will really motivate them to work side by side with somebody they admire. Are you happy working here? Maybe not as blunt as this one, but going to this, asking this question in your own way is really important, right? Because if the person is not happy working here with you, it only ends in two ways. They're getting fired or they're leaving. So if you're not happy and you tell me, okay, maybe you have a chance to fix things, and I'm really interested in hearing why you're not happy. If you say nothing, then it will probably end in those two ways that I talked about. How can I help you deliver your best work? What are your long-term objectives? Are you making progress towards them? Again, this is super important for intrinsic motivation and for matching what the person wants to do with what the company needs them to do. And the one about the family, who are the important people in your life. So during a one-on-one, I really recommend to listen carefully and to don't interrupt. This is very hard for me. I usually, like, if somebody starts speaking and my mind goes off and I start to have ideas, and I really need to take a deep breath and count to 5 and say, okay, let the person finish, and then I'll say what I think. Don't break the silence, as I mentioned before. I always take notes. I have a very bad memory, so I take notes of whatever people are telling me, and this is important. These are private notes, right? These are not for HR. These will not go to the person's file or whatever, and it really helps me in a lot of things that I will speak later. But it also helps me, like in the following one-on-one, what I usually do 5 minutes before the meeting is I read about the things we talked in the previous weeks, in the previous meeting, and so we can continue where we stopped. And it's very common to go out of these meetings with agreements, right? So if you've made agreements to do something, keep them, and I expect the people to do them too. Where to do them? So first thing is anywhere. Don't let the where be an enemy of having them, right? If you have an office, go ahead and have them in your office. This was our company a few years ago, when we used to have these tables, and we would have one-on-ones in this table, right? You don't have to hide. Everybody knows you have one-on-ones with everybody in your team, so it doesn't have to be a secret, right? And people will not go there and stay try to listen to what you're talking about. And even if they do, there are rarely occasions when you're talking about something very, very I don't know, private or that nobody else can hear. Try to go somewhere where you avoid interruptions. If you're doing them remotely, turn off notifications. Don't go there reading email or whatever. Be present. Be totally focused on the person ahead of you. Don't schedule conference rooms, because this adds an extra layer of complexity, and the previous meeting will get late and you will not have the room when you expect it to have. So do them. I've done them in coffee shops. I've done them in a public area in the building. I've done them in the parking lots. I've done them walking around a square. So there's really no objection here on where to have them. How to get started? The first thing is, whenever you're making a change to your management style, or you're doing something new, communicate that you will start, right? Tell people that you will start, that you read about it, and that you think it's gonna be good for the team. And it's okay to say, if people ask questions, okay, not sure, this is new for me too, I'm just getting started, but we'll figure it out together. The beginning might be awkward, but I don't know, maybe first meeting, like first week or second week. And if you're doing it with 5 or 10 people, okay, in the first week you'll do 5 or 10 meetings, so you can practice a lot, right? If you're really feeling insecure, start 1 week before with your top performers, or with your people you have the best relationships. No more than 1 week, because then you would be privileging people over other people. But okay, once one week ahead is okay by me. And use it ethically, right? You're gonna learn a lot about people, a lot about their motivation. So this is true for everything we do. This is something I really believe. But in one-on-ones, you're building a relationship, and it would be very bad if you used people's honesty against them. So this is a must for me. If somebody told me something, it's a private conversation. It's something that I need to tell anybody else. I'll say, okay, this is what you told me. It's important. It's serious, and I need to take it further with, I don't know, HR or my boss or whoever. So do you want to go with me and talk about this, or should I go? But I'm telling you that this subject needs to be followed on. And don't let it be a management fad, right? If you start it with the intention to keep it, right? If not, you say, okay, I'm gonna do this for 1 month, and then I'm tired of it, and then next month I'm gonna start doing something else, and then you lose credibility with your people, right? Additional benefits, performance reviews. I don't know if you have like formal performance review processes. If they're like every 6 months or every 1 year, I certainly cannot remember what happened 4 months ago, right? It was really hard for me to write performance reviews, even though we had them every 6 months. And what I start to do, the first thing I do when writing a performance review is read through my one-on-one notes of this person since the beginning of the period, right? And also, if you need to coach this person, if you need to delegate things to this person, if you need to have career conversations, these are all things that I find hard to get the time to do. Like if you don't have a placeholder to do them, and it's one-on-ones, my bet is that you probably don't have them as often as you should. Okay, entering the last part. Still here? If anybody can just signal in the chat. All right, I'm following on. How to do them with your peers and your boss. So the first thing some people could be thinking right now is, okay, I love this. This is exactly what I need to improve my relationship with my boss. How do I do it with my boss? Well, sorry to disappoint you. My first recommendation is never suggest that your boss holds one-on-ones with you. So this is true for a couple of reasons. First, if you're a people manager and your boss is a people manager, if you suggest this, so first thing, I'm going through a stereotype of the boss, right? I'm thinking here about the boss only focused on results and that doesn't really care about relationships. If this is not your case, you probably just have a good relationship with your boss, and all right, you can suggest it, or you probably already have it, right? Somehow you have a good relationship with your boss. If you don't have a good relationship, these things could happen. One, they can think that you're suggesting that your way of managing people is better than their way of managing people, and this is not good for you, right? And the second thing they can think of is, okay, you're only suggesting this because you don't understand the challenges or the difficulties of a level above yours. This could always also backfire onto you, right? So don't do this. So, but what can you do? Remember the main goal: encourage effective behaviors, and you can do this with communication, quantity and quality, right? So if your boss is a very results-oriented person and only cares about results, talk to them about results, right? So ask for a 30-minute update meeting, non-recurring. Don't go on and take their time for like forever, and you will finish sharply after 15 minutes. So you ask for a 30-minute meeting. You will update them on results. You'll talk to them about what matters to them, results, projects, deliveries, OKRs, deadlines, whatever. And you will finish sharply after 15 minutes. And then two things can happen. Your boss could say, hey, good that we have 15 minutes, spare 15 minutes. Hey, why don't we talk about your perspectives here, about your future growth or whatever? Or how are things with you? And these things can happen. Or they can say, okay, glad we finished 30, I'm off to something else, goodbye. And if this happens, don't let the last 15 minutes ruin the first 15 minutes, right? The first 15 minutes, they hold value, they are important. If you feel this happened, this went well, the first 15 minutes, do it again, or ask your boss if, hey, can we do it again in a couple of weeks, and do it again, non-recurring, until I don't know, after a few months you'll try to make it recurring, but don't start with that. And if you have the last 15 minutes, great, you've achieved your goal. But bear in mind, this is not a one-on-one. Don't call it a one-on-one. It's not, right? And when you talk with your boss, a few tips here. Be prepared, right? Take prioritized topics. Maybe if you have 10 topics to talk about, you won't be able to talk about the 10 of them. So, okay, if you talk about the 3 most important, all right. And then if you have another meeting somewhere in the future, you'll talk about the other ones. One thing to keep in mind, whenever you talk to a boss, have it clear and make it clear to the person if you are informing, if you are asking for a decision, or if you are asking for help. Like if you are doing one thing and your boss understands the other, you will run into trouble, right? If you feel like, send an agenda in advance. I've had people do this and say, okay, next meeting I want to talk about X, Y, and Z, and it's really helpful, so I can think about it, or I can get information, and the discussion will go much smoother. Report about your goals. So always discuss subjects related to goals. Always take notes. Be clear on the deadlines, the met ones and the not met ones. And one thing that I've seen people fail on, it's not enough to just do your job, right? You have to do your job, and you have to report on the work done. You don't work alone. Other people, other areas, people depend on your work. So whenever you meet a deadline, whenever you deliver something, whenever you finish something, report on it and let people know that you're done. And ask for help and bring suggestions, right? With your peers, it's a similar dynamic. So start defining your most important relationships. Probably if you have like 10 peers, you won't do this with all of them, but I don't know. For example, engineering usually has a peer in product. It's very important for these people to talk on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis. And again, ask for a 15-minute weekly update meeting, update your peer for 15 minutes, and see if they have updates for you for the last 15 minutes, right? Ending time, your 15 minutes. And I always think about giving, like give information, help people out. This goes for your peers, but it can go for people on our industry as well, right? So whenever people want something from me, or they want to get information, or they want to benchmark or whatever, okay, let's give information, let's talk to people. And I do believe that this is good for relationships and ends up coming back for me in a good way. So if your peer is not sharing information, it's their problem, right? So give all the information you can have, you can give, help them do their work better, and this will eventually come back to you. And think about the benefits, right? You can solve issues without escalating them. You can build relationships with people that tomorrow will be in different areas or in different projects or in different initiatives, that you have built a relationship with them, and it's going to be much easier for you to navigate these areas in your company, right? So this is it. I told you about why having one-on-ones, how to have them, and how to have them with your peers and your boss. These are some references if you want to take a look at them. I think we can share slides later, so we can help me with that. But if you want to take a screenshot here, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Leo. We can definitely share the slides afterwards.
Okay.
And it was already mentioned that we can share the video. We've got some amazing... I've been taking notes because I loved your list of questions to ask. I think it's so good to go in armed with really good open questions where you can build relationships. We've had some great questions in from the audience though, so I want to make sure we crack on with those before the end of the session. So our first question is from Christine, who says that she's the SE manager for an engineer who is prolific and contributory, but has extreme discomfort around one-to-one conversations, being on camera, and with trusting people at work in general, based on their previous experiences. She's been at the company for less than a year, and Christina's been her manager for 5 months. We communicate well async in Slack, but it is very challenged to develop synchronous rapport. What do you recommend? What a fantastic question.
Yeah, good question. Thank you so much. So I can think of a few things, right? If you connect with this person async, so this means it's not that they don't want to connect, right? Maybe it's the format of the communication. So I would try to ask this person, hey, I think that we communicate really, really well over Slack, but I don't feel the same level of communication when we talk synchronously. Do you feel the same? The person would probably say, but start exploring this topic with the person, right? She's the best person to answer you, to tell you why she feels differently. So a lot of things can happen. So maybe this person lives in a very tiny home with 10 other people, and she's not comfortable because, I don't know, there are kids running around and whatever. I don't know. We don't know her environment, right? So this could be it. If just communicating asynchronously works for you, you could do that. What I've done with a team, this is very interesting. You could do over Slack. It's like every week you would send a question to get the team to get more closer, right? So you could say, hey, where were you born? And then people would answer on a thread, I was born here. And following week, hey, what sports do you play? And this trying to do improving connection over an asynchronous process, right? But I would ask the person in a very delicate and politely way, what's going on.
Yeah, great answer. And I think that using her answer, using her perspective,
yeah.
asking her what works for her, yeah.
And I don't know if you have, I don't know, a physical meeting like every year, or if the team gets together every 6 months or every year or so, this could be a good place to ask as well if you have those.
Super. Okay, next question from Daniel. How do we set boundaries between the professional and the personal?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I would say that as a leader, I will not ask any more personal questions other than tell me about the important people in your life, right? If people want to talk about it, I'm glad to hear. And sometimes, if I need to ask something that is a little bit more personal, I would say, hey, I'm sorry, I feel like I need to ask about this. It's personal, you don't have to answer me if you don't want to. And then if you're going down this road, give the person the opportunity not to answer without generating awkward feelings, right? Maybe your question is the opposite, right? If people want to share a lot of personal information that you don't really care about, but hey, you need to care about, right? If it's important to them, if they're really attached to their family, or if they feel like they want to share this stuff with you, good. It means they trust you, and it means they are establishing a connection with you. So I would think this as a compliment, and maybe you don't need to share a lot of your personal stuff, but okay, you can say, hey, I have kids and whatever. Yeah, if this person shares a lot of personal stuff, maybe they expect you to do the same. So try to share little tiny things, right? If it's legal in your country, I don't know if there are different legislations here, but you could say, okay, like this weekend I've been to a concert, whatever. It's not like don't need to share your intimate secrets or something like that, but a little bit, it goes a long way.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Do you use, this is from Ivan, do you use any tools to stay organized in your one-on-ones?
Yeah, I use a tool called, it's from getlighthouse.com. I think it's great because it syncs with my Google Calendar. There are probably dozens of tools right there. Manager Tools has a downloadable form for you to use offline. You can use whatever you use, like Google Keep, Evernote, Google Drive, whatever. It works fine.
Well, let's go on then to the next question is, how do you feel about a shared document between you and your one-to-one partner for transparent notes taking? So that's a bit different from, you mentioned taking private notes to remind you.
I've seen people do that. Well, for me, transparency is paramount, right? So the more transparency you have, I think the better. And this is actually a good question, right? So the question is there something that I would like to write on my private notes that I would not write on my shared notes? The answer should be no, right? Whatever I write here, I should be, for example, I can think of giving negative feedback for this person. If I'm giving the person negative feedback, it can be written down. Like, I would not share it in advance, right? If we have a shared document and we write things for the agenda, probably I would not write there, I'm going to give negative feedback to this person about something, right? But other than that, like for things that you talked about, I think it's good. But ask yourself this question, like, are there cases of things that I don't want to write publicly? And I don't think there should be.
Super. Okay, so all right, 2 more questions. If anyone else has got a question, you have to get it up super quick because we're running a little bit over time. You did discuss this in your talk, but do you want to elaborate a bit on why do you not recommend asking your boss for regular one-to-ones?
Sure. So I'm talking here about playing it safe, right? I don't want people to get burned and go to your boss and something bad happens. So this is a general advice. If you know your environment, you know your culture, you know people are open, people, right? If you already have a somewhat good relationship with this person, with these people, go ahead. But I'm thinking, like, if you think this is the solution for not having a good relationship with your boss, don't do it like this, because your boss might think that you're suggesting that your way of managing people is better than their way, or your boss might think, oh, okay, this person doesn't understand the challenges or the difficulties of my level, so that's why they stay in their level. So I'm thinking here about a more hierarchical culture, right?
Right, and
But
where
this
the
is it.
culture might be that they're very busy and they, you're saying the best use of their you're kind of telling them what the best
Yes,
use of their time
exactly,
is.
exactly, yeah.
Super. Okay, great. Last question. Thank you so much, everyone, for all the questions. How do you develop trust? This is from Luciano. How do you develop trust with people you don't feel particularly connected to?
Yeah, I don't think you need to. You just have to work well together, right? You don't need to like the person. You don't have to be friends. You don't have to feel connected. You just have to, I don't know, work well together, and then we look at behaviors, right? Are your behaviors effective? Are this person's behaviors effective? And okay, you might not like her, but all right, we can work together here. And after we don't work together anymore in the same initiative or company, I'll never see you again, and that's fine. But whenever you're working together, you have a professional obligation to try to do the best for the company. So I think it's different concepts: trust and feeling connected, right? So that's how I think.
I think also you gave us the answer today, right? It's have one-on-ones with them.
Yeah,
And maybe like it's important to have one-on-ones even with people. It's not about hanging out with people you like, right? It's about building the relationship with people you need to work with.
exactly. And this person, if you don't feel connected, then okay, I'll tell you about work. You tell me about work. This is what we need to keep doing, like to keep working together, and that's fine. I'll never tell you about any personal details, and we don't need to be friends, right? That's it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Leo. That's been a really informative and useful discussion today. If anyone would like to connect with Leo, we're going to share some links in the chat now, so please do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Next week, we're joined by Jean Cordisco, who is the Chief People Officer at O'Reilly, for a fireside chat on empathetic leadership. Employee satisfaction and morale are important factors contributing to the success of any business. Leaders need to understand and help address the needs of their teams in order to maintain a positive and productive environment and establish trust and loyalty amongst team members. The discussion will explore the concept of empathetic leadership, the characteristics of an empathetic leader, and the influence empathy can have on the workplace. And the event page has been posted in the chat as well, and hope to see you all there next week. Thank you again, Leo. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone, for staying until now. And sorry for the internet trouble in the beginning. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
You did a great job working through it. Thanks, Leo.
Bye.